Join me as we talk all things true crime.
Made contact and shattered.
The missing 4-year-old. The parents have called in and advised that the mother has went through a wall, came home, now they can't find her.
Chad, where are Lori's kids? They've been missing for 4 months. You have nothing to say?
4 were stabbed multiple times and were likely asleep during the attack. Some had defensive wounds.
Most of them had just like one that was the lethal stab wound.
Oh, what a tangled web we weave. Once I told a lie, and I told my family, I had to keep lying.
Make sure, is it deemed?
We haven't cleared anybody.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. This is another ATS News live stream. We are going over the Sebastian Rogers case. Now, there is no updates in this case as of anything, through the news or law enforcement. It's one of the first things I do every day is check for updates. And unfortunately, I have no new news regarding that. However, the other day, I think over the weekend, JLR did an interview with Sebastian Rogers' neighbor. I have not watched the entire thing. I've seen bits and pieces. I know a lot of people have watched it. And thank you, mods, for letting me know that the sound is good. I appreciate you guys. And hello, Adrian, Bella, Italia, Liz, Sherry. Good to see you guys. So I just want to listen to this interview with you guys in its entirety. I know some people were saying that there wasn't anything of substance that was shared, or a lot of it was just hearsay. And since we just have no new information coming out, I can't help but just skim over this and not give it a listen. So I'm going to listen to it. Obviously, I am well aware of what hearsay is and what to kind of take in and kind of keep as like, okay, well, we'll leave that there as a possibility. We're not going to state it as absolute truth, but I do think that it will be interesting to listen to. So I really appreciate you guys all being here. Again, this is a missing child case, and we need to hit the like button, not just for the channel, but to keep his story out there. I know that his name is out there a lot, but it's regarding a lot of drama, which is unfortunate, but it's happened in this case. And I just think that let's keep this as, factual as possible, keep an open mind, and just keep his name and face out there. Hello, all that glitters and Roro. Good to see you guys and everyone else who joined. What I do want to do also is play some interesting clips just from past interviews that I think will be good to kind of refresh before we jump into JLR's interview with the neighbor. I did ask JLR's permission to listen to this. He never got back to me in the comment section, but I know that other channels have played it, and with fair use, we are able to listen to it as long as we add our commentary and thoughts and opinions. So please, chat, let me know what you're thinking as we're listening to it, and then I will share everything that you guys are saying as well. And hello, MK. He went missing like 100 and something days ago. So it's been over 3 months, unfortunately.
I was in Memphis, Tennessee.
How far away is that?
3 hours and 37 minutes from doorstep to doorstep.
Question regarding your vehicles. Ms. Proudfoot, what make and model do you drive?
I drive a Infinity SUV.
Year?
2017.
And sir, what do you drive?
I drive a diesel truck, Chevrolet.
Year?
I don't remember off the top of my head. I think it's a 2021, I think.
So there's only one car at the home, is that right?
There was actually a work vehicle in the driveway at the time as well, but it hasn't moved. We can't give out that information because we don't have permission from her work.
I don't understand that. What?
About the make and model of the vehicle.
I have a work van that was also parked in the driveway.
Why is that? If it's out in the driveway where people can see it, why is that privileged information?
We just don't have permission from her company to divulge that information.
Have you asked?
No, ma'am, we have not. Nobody's asked us
So
that
that
question.
was-
to be honest with you.
Okay, that you guys have left the home. Is that true?
Yes, ma'am.
Why?
I'm going back to work.
You're going back to work. What about you, Miss Proudfoot?
And I'm not going back to work. Not yet, at least.
Did you leave the home also, Miss Proudfoot?
Yes, ma'am.
Why?
To accompany my husband going back to work, and then I'm coming back.
Okay, when will you be back? Do you know yet?
No, not yet.
About 9 o'clock. Told him to go to bed. And he said, come out of his room where he was playing. And he said, all right, good night, Mama. Good night, puppies. Love you. He went to bed. He was doing something in his room because about an hour later I heard some noise and I was like, I don't care what you're doing in there, but go to sleep. And about midnight I got up and I went to bed. And 6 o'clock I went to wake him up for school Monday morning. And that's when he went here.
Earlier, you had stated you heard a noise in his room before you went to bed. What time was that?
Around 10 o'clock.
10 p.m. What did it sound like?
Just a thud.
A thud. You stated that you said, look, I don't care what you're doing in there, go to bed. Is that right?
I was on the couch, which is near his room, and I said, Bubba, did you fall out of the bed? And he said, no, ma'am. And I said, well, whatever you're doing in there, knock it off and go to sleep.
So you heard his voice at 10 p.m.?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have any idea what the sound actually was?
I do not, no.
All right. And yes, I think everyone knows that, I'm not a huge Nancy Grace fan at all. I see you guys in chat aren't either. We much more prefer Vinnie Politan. But that interview was super interesting with them on there. I think that Nancy asked the right questions. I think they were holding back about the car topic. Hi, Debbie Fox and Roxanne. Good to see you guys. Yeah, they covered their tracks. Just reading your guys' comments. The stepdad is ultra sketch. Somebody said this is weird. Hi, House Huddle. Good to see you. Sketchy is an understatement. I feel like they didn't want to disclose information about their vehicles. And I said that when I first, shared those clips, and I'm feeling it even more so now that it's been a few weeks and we're looking at it. This is the information that matters. This is the face and the information regarding Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers that we should all remember and share amongst your, social medias and all that. Yeah, I do think that interview was weird. Each interview with the mom and stepdad are cringe. This case, Stephen Stearns, etc., almost predictable, the dialogue. And yet we don't have any updates in this case. Again, they've stated no signs of foul play, but foul play is not ruled out of the question, like not off the table at all. So Cindy says, I think the stepdad dumped his body somewhere between Nashville and Memphis. There's a lot of area. I think anything is possible at this point. I know that, we've kind of talked about the runaway aspect and people have said, well, they would have found him by now. And I do feel that way mostly, but there is a small part of me that wonders if he stormed out of their vehicle and she said, screw it, he'll find his way home. He never did. And then now we're in this predicament. I don't know. Obviously, I'm leaving everything on the table and all possibilities out there. Yes, Seth did say that they were all still suspects. He did. I do think revisiting these lives is paramount. Hindsight is 2020. Each time we look at the interviews, more info comes to light. I agree. And again, people have stated that this interview, and let me share my screen, with the neighbor, some of them, thought it was interesting. Other people were like, it's a nothing burger. Let's see what the comments say. I hope more neighbors speak out. The boy deserves peace and justice. Bam, she confirmed everything we all knew and thought. Katie did something with Sebastian, period. 48 likes. Thank you, Bobby, for being so brave and coming forward. Stay safe. I pray that she doesn't get harassed and threatened. Sounds like the car and whoever was holding those flashlights are involved in Sebastian's disappearance. This was really good. I hope she stays safe, from CP. So those are the top comments on the video. I've sped up the speed just one bit so that we can kind of get through it. So now that we have shared, those other little clips that I put together, we can jump into this. Where is Faith? I have no idea. I've heard rumors that she's spending the summer with CP. Again, those are rumors. I do know that they had a court date and all that, but I have not really dug into that aspect. I'm just trying to focus on Sebastian. And obviously I know CP and his history with his ex-wife and everything that she shared is vital. And we might even go over Nina's interview again. We never did on our channel. So, until they come out with more information, fortunately, I'm just going to be rehashing everything that we've already heard, because we have to keep his name out there, his face out there. Tony says, I don't think anything they said about that night he went missing makes sense. Agree. Are they still in the RV for the summer? I am not sure. If anybody knows, fill us in, please. All right, let's get into this. And hello, Being Bio Girl. Good to see you. And everyone else who's joined, thanks so much for being here.
Pops in. There she is. And their own representatives. Family members that claim they ran.
That's correct. Make the post first, and this is a neighbor down the street from me.
Yeah, I mean, you're active in the Sebastian groups. You do talk, you do share, you share a lot of insight. You've been there from day one, right?
Yeah, well, I don't know that I was in your group from day one. I was in another group not really even, honestly, day one was such a trauma, just dramatic day that I don't even think, the only thing I was in on day one was our neighborhood group, because that's where Katie had first commented about him being gone. So no, actually I wasn't in any Facebook groups day one. It was such a crazy moment. So probably.
Yeah, when you say Katie commented, what do you mean by that? She joined a neighborhood group?
Well, so I'm an admin of our private neighborhood group. And she created a post, I want to say around, 7:30 maybe ish, 7:30 that morning, Monday morning, simply just saying, my son is missing, and kind of commented on a little bit about him. Like, I think she made the comment about how tall he was, and that he was autistic and he was missing. Please check your cameras. It was just like a 2-liner, just real quick, shooting it out there.
So like,
okay, so that's interesting, because she says around 6 o'clock, she wakes up, sees that Sebastian's not there. She drove around. So now we can add in another thing that Katie did that morning. She posted in their local neighborhood Facebook group that this woman runs. She's an admin for. So I don't know, that kind of gives me another visual to picture that morning. And again, I've linked this whole interview in the description box. And I agree, love. I do not want this to be another Summer Wells case. I agree.
maybe like an hour and a half, hour something after she and Chris that we found out that they called and reported Sebastian missing.
Correct. It was, yes, because I think that from what I understood, she called around 6:30 that morning. I think was it about 6:30? I think is okay. So yeah, it was. And I think from what another neighbor said, that she actually caught her SUV leaving the neighborhood right before that or right after that. And so it was, she did all that and then came back. And then I guess that's when she put it on the Facebook page. But I also remember what I thought was very odd was shortly before that, another neighbor, so if their house is here, if you're going up Stafford, a little bit farther up Stafford, was actually the first one to ask, hey, what's all going on in the neighborhood? Because my older son left to go to work that morning, approximately 8 o'clock, and there was already police all up and down Stafford, like just covering it. And they were already out walking around and stuff. And so I don't know, I guess she saw some of that traffic as she was leaving to go to work, and she posted first on the Facebook page. And then Katie after that is when she posted, and I went back to find that, and that previous neighbor deleted her post.
What about?
Okay, so Katie posted about her son being missing after somebody else had posted it. So again, very interesting. Not sure, what it means as far as the big picture, but to kind of get a visual of a timeline of what Katie did that morning. She might have seen on her own Facebook, somebody else posted it and thought, let me post it as well. I don't know. Or she got on Facebook to post it herself and it had already been shared. Very interesting though.
Katie's
I don't know. No, the original post, the first post.
Yeah.
The neighbor, it's gone. She had to have deleted it because you can't, if you're not the creator of the post, you can't delete someone else's post. They have to delete it. But when I went back a couple of weeks after everything happened and things kind of calmed down a little bit, I was talking to somebody else and I was like, I remember, didn't such and such make the post first? And this is a neighbor down the street from me. And she said, yeah, I remember that. And I was like, I wonder what the time frame was different. And I went back to look and it was gone. So the original neighbor that very first posted asking what was all the commotion going on. And I still wonder if that's why Katie posted that. But then Chris.
See, and because I run so many different Facebook groups as an admin, if somebody deletes something, you can actually, and I hope somebody told this to Bobby because it'd be interesting to see, you can go through an activity log and you can see so-and-so deleted the post. So I'm very curious. I mean, we could still find out what time that other neighbor posted it and compare it to what time Katie posted in the group. So again, I hope somebody reaches out to Bobby and says, as the admin, if somebody in your group deletes something, you're able to go through the activity log and, pull that post back just for the admin to see. And then she could see what time it was posted and compare it to when Katie did. And Linda and Tony, Marshall Dove, everyone else, Zoe, everyone else who has joined, thank you guys so much.
It was like 2 or 3 neighbors after. So Katie posted her comment or her post, and then several people commented after. I didn't see anything. She was asking, like, everybody check their cameras. I didn't see anything. And then Chris posted underneath that and simply said something like, yeah, my son's missing. That was it.
Oh. So what did it say, like, where the post was originating from, or was Chris around the neighborhood by then?
Okay, so I have twins, and when we first heard about everything, they jumped up and went running out of the house and went across the street down to where they live, and they walked over because they wanted to be a part of helping, look for him, and they went over there, and Chris was not there yet. So Seth was in there 8:30.
8:30, okay.
8:20-ish. Yeah, because my oldest son had already left for work. He left about 8. Then my twins, when I got the phone call from the neighbor very nearby them, that is a good friend of mine, about 8:15, 8:20 that morning, asking if I had heard what would happen. And I had not yet because I hadn't gotten going for the day yet. And then when my son texted me, I didn't answer. So he called my other boy's phone and asked them, hey, do y'all see what's going on? And they came around my room and said, hey, Mom, did you hear what happened? I was like, wait, what? What's going on? My phone's ringing. You guys are running in here. Like, what is happening here? And
Okay, so chaos is breaking loose pretty much in the neighborhood. Everyone's trying to figure out what's going on. Aunt Kimmy says, I don't think he ran away either. I've sped it up to 1.25, so it's not that much. Is it too fast for you guys? I hear it fine, but again, other people, I don't know. Pointer lover, good to see you. Sorry you didn't get a notification. YouTube sucks at that. And I'm curious. Tony says, I don't think he ever made it home that night, in my opinion. I'm curious who falls in line with Tony, because a part of me thinks that as well. After dinner, that's why I kind of speculated, even though everyone's saying like, no, if he ran off, they would have found him. That's why I leave on the table. It's not my main theory that he stormed off out of the car and never made it home, and she just let him go, which is still wrong on her part. But again, people have said they would have found him. And I agree. Like, I just leave stuff on the table because we don't know anything. So anything and everything is on the table for me personally. So again, I'm curious, do you guys think he made it home that night? Let me know. Being Bio Girl says, I'm with Tony. I've always said that it would make sense. And then all this, like the thud and I love you, mama, I love you, puppies, all that is like fake proof of life coming from the mother, when we actually have no real proof of life. It's a possibility.
And my neighbor was on the phone calling me. And so as soon as I heard the neighbor tell me the story, what happened, they went running out the door and went over there to kind of help, with the search and stuff. And they said that they saw Seth and Katie in the front yard and of course they didn't know the names back then. They just knew, like, now that they've seen pictures, they go back and say, yeah, it was Seth and Katie and Kathy Bauer Socks and a bunch of other police, law enforcement and stuff like that. But Chris was not there yet.
Interesting.
Wow.
He wasn't there then.
Now, where do you live relative to the Proudfoots?
I live at the very top of the hill on Kellen.
So the next street, the street that turns into Stafford.
The main street.
Main street coming in. So just basically what you're now going back to Katie, like what you know or what you heard. When was Katie driving around in her SUV? Like a time frame? Like when do you?
Hold up. Just going through your guys' comments. The analyst, good to see you. I know you're digging deep into this case as well, like you have in other cases. In my opinion, he is in the storage unit by his school. Why have you come to that conclusion? Again, everything's up on the table. I'm just curious how you came to that theory. And also, Little Red says, I think he was sleeping in garage and turned on car. The exhaust got him. That's something I never even thought about. Wow. Interesting and possible. Everything is possible. Remember, Katie says that they searched her vehicle twice.
You think she was driving around there? I think looking for Sebastian, like she claims.
Right. So there's so many different things here, because the neighbor that I actually spoke with, that I'm friends with, she's the one that has the camera on the corner of Stafford and Kellen. And I'm not going to mention her name, but she's the one that the camera footage got leaked without her knowledge and her permission, that everybody has seen. But I've directly spoken with her. And then I also have directly spoken with a couple other neighbors that live very close to the Proudfoot's house. And the neighbor that I spoke with the very first time that morning, she said that when she was taking her kids to school, Katie was already back from looking. She had just got back from looking, and the kids have to be in school at 7:30. And so she normally leaves the house at 7 to take her kids to school. But
So I think what they're kind of getting to the conclusion here with this little dialogue is they don't feel like Katie drove around that long. Again, I mean, how long do you drive around before you go back to the home base and, call your husband, call 911? Like, it's hard. It's hard to kind of say like, oh, that wasn't long enough that she drove around. When you're driving, you can only see like everything that's in your car anyways. So if he had gone off in the woods or on a trail and she can't see it from her car, again, I'm just trying to give Katie the benefit of the doubt. That's all.
Katie was already back and in the front yard, and all the cops and stuff were there. So she stopped for a minute to talk to her, took her to school. My neighbor that had the camera footage told me that her timeline is not working correctly, but when she puts it all together with the sunrise and then the bus coming through and all of that, she said it was approximately about 6 o'clock, 6:15, 6:20. It was right in between. Supposedly when she discovered him missing, supposedly she gets up, she runs around the house, she gets dressed, and she drives out of the neighborhood and that kind of thing and goes looking for him. But I know the neighbor if you're looking at the Prophet's house on the left, when she went running out of her house hysterical, the neighbor next to her was already out. Of course, everybody's getting up, getting ready for work, getting kids ready.
Yeah, that's the thing is, like Dustin's theory and everyone else's theory, just like Marshall Dove says, I'm open to anything at this point, not even able to lean a little towards how or who, when. Poor Sebastian. Cray, yeah, we've acknowledged in the beginning of the stream, I don't know if you heard, that we understand this is hearsay. We're taking it with a grain of salt. We are also desperate for information. So in order to cover this case, I feel it's important to listen to what everyone close to them had to say. So, why was the mattress in the garage? Good question. Maybe she over-medicated him. That's another theory. Carbon monoxide would fill the house up too. It's attached to the garage. Good point.
For school, bus comes 6:45, 6:50-ish. 6:45, 6:50. It's been a long time since my kids have ridden the bus, so I have to really think about that one. But it's definitely before 7 because the kids have to be in school in class by 7:30. And we're the last pick up before he actually goes to school because we're right next to the school. So everybody was getting up and getting ready for work and everything. So she actually saw her out and she asked her what was going on. And she told her, and so she actually walked around the house and was helping her look around the house. So she was already back from looking around 7.
Interesting. When she left to go look for Sebastian, I know that if you turn right going out of the Prophet, you go up the top of the hill, it's a cul-de-sac, or you go around and you can go up your street all the way at the back where the construction is. Did she, before she ventured out of the neighborhood, did she go up those roads? Do you know of to look?
Did she go up my road?
Your road or her road itself to the top of the cul-de-sac? Where
the only thing I was right. So the only thing I was told, of course, we nobody in my house was up or out yet, so I can't verify that because we weren't out yet. But the neighbor that told me that she saw her SUV drive across her driveway saw her leave. So that's right.
That's interesting. So you would think that maybe you stay in the neighborhood a little bit and go up and down your own streets.
That was when she went to the school thinking that he had walked to the school on his own, which I don't know why. He's never done that before. So why would he do that? I mean, why would he just walk to school by himself? Plus he had no shoes on, supposedly. So why would he walk to school by himself? So, but that's what I was told, that she actually walked around her house outside, didn't find him. So she got in her car and drove to the school.
And was back by 7. Around that time.
So at least actually before that.
Yeah. Does Sebastian, did he take the bus to school, or did Katie take him in her car?
From what the neighbors, of course I don't have kids that ride the bus anymore. But from what the neighbor nearby said, that he did ride the bus. Now, the neighbor on the corner that has a surveillance camera said that there is a special bus that comes for certain kids that have special needs and whatever. And she said, I don't think he gets on that bus. I think he gets on the other bus. So that was what I was told. I can't verify that, so I can't answer that appropriately.
Got you. So we're talking all law enforcement, all there, starting to descend onto the area, 8 a.m.-ish, right? 8 a.m.-ish.
Well, they were there before that. They were all.
So Marshall asked, I have not been keeping up this week, so is public still split down the middle as to which parents, or he left on his own? I don't listen to what other people are thinking when it comes to, I mean, I listen to obviously people's opinions, but I don't know what the public generally is feeling. I think the majority still think stepdad and the mother. But I know that there's a lot of people who are thinking Seth is suspicious. In my mind, they're all suspect. They're all suspicious to me until we get people cleared. left on his own, a lot of people I think are thinking that he would have been found by now, or there would be some sort of evidence of that. But there are still people who are, keeping that on the table, and I'm keeping that on the table as well. So it's very hard. This is like a hard one to kind of follow. Music City Mom says, I think he met someone online. Tony says, I think they know what happened to him. I'm feeling that way as well. She doesn't know if he has ever walked to school. She didn't know him. I think that she knows the scene of what happened that morning, mostly, which is interesting. And she ran the neighborhood Facebook group where she says somebody posted Sebastian went missing, and then Katie posted after it. So all that I think is very interesting to kind of lay out as far as a timeline that morning. So around 7:30-ish, she posted in their neighborhood Facebook page, but after somebody else did. So again, I don't think she ever claimed to really know him. I think she's just sharing her story of what she saw and heard that morning.
Already there and cars parked. By the time when my son went to work at 8, they were already there and already clumped up together and starting to talk because they were already in the front yard talking to them. So they were, I don't know exact. I mean, I would say probably it was even before. I mean, they were probably there. I'm trying to remember what she said when she got ready to leave. She never said anything. The neighbor that called me and told me about it never mentioned law enforcement being there. She just said that Katie was outside walking around, upset and everything. And she asked her, like, what's going on? But she didn't specify if there were law enforcement there, but they were already there and out of.
So if Katie's walking around, I wonder if she's calling Sebastian's name.
Their cars and in the front yard at 8 o'clock. So they had to have been there before that.
Gotcha. Any idea when Seth got there?
No, but I do know that he was there by the time my kids went over there, like I said, which was about 8:30. He was already there. And I also know that his truck was there like off and on the whole time.
Gotcha.
But I don't know what time exactly.
So what happens?
I'm not sure if she's an admin for Seth's Facebook group. Her story changes in another interview. Where is her other interview, and how does her story change? Please do tell, because I'm very interested. I feel like she's interjected herself with a lot of hearsay and not what she has witnessed herself. Again, we kind of covered that in the beginning of the stream, that this would entail a lot of hearsay. However, without new information coming out from law enforcement, I feel it's important to kind of listen in and, take everything with a grain of salt.
Just explain to everybody then, what did law enforcement do at that point, like throughout the morning? Once they all arrived there, did more and more law enforcement come, or was there certain?
I told my neighbor down the street, I said, I didn't even know we had these agencies. I mean, like I've never in my life ever seen such a response. It was overwhelming. It was like, it kind of freaked me out. Like, oh my God, I feel like I'm living in a real life, like drama crime scene. It was the craziest thing I've ever seen. The very first that came out was the sheriff's department, because we live in a county. So sheriff's department respond first because we're not part of the city. So they came out first and they literally walked all up and down and around and everything. And then they came door to door and asked everybody, who all had cameras and whatnot. What did you see? What do you know? Whatever. And then it was, now of course I'm having to really go back in my head. It's been a little while. It was later on that afternoon, they brought some dogs in and they started walking around. They came around the houses and asked everybody to walk around their own property, look underneath stuff and anything that's unlocked. So all of us up and down my street, everybody, my neighbors came out with me. She and I walked together, walked all up and down our yards, all across the street, up and through the cul-de-sac, down the street a little bit. There's a barbed wire fence behind us as of right now where the new construction is, so you can't get over that, but we could walk around it. And so we both walked up and around that, just looked everywhere that was kind of close by. And then I noticed that they had the drones up. And of course the news was that was Tuesday. The news came out and was flying the helicopter around. It was chaotic. It was absolutely chaotic.
Did you see Seth and Katie out there looking?
Not in our neighborhood. Never.
Never seen
And
them
I was
walk around.
no, they were in their yard out, but never left their property. No. And I know for a fact because so Monday my kids were out with law enforcement because at that point it was we need all the neighbors come out, help us, look everywhere, whatever. So they were open to everybody coming in and help. So at that point, my kids jumped into one of those razor things and drove all up and through the property and stuff. And then my other one walked with the canine unit in the construction zone. He walked all the way through that. They literally, I had to call him at one point in time and tell him, y'all need to come home and have lunch. I mean, this is crazy. I know you want to help, but you got to come home and eat. And so then they came home, they ate, and then they went back out there and they were out there with them all day Monday, all day Tuesday. And then, so Tuesday we had SWAT. That was the day we had the vigil. And it was interesting because we put out a post on the neighborhood group that we're having a vigil and everybody's invited, but we want it to be just the neighborhood only because we want it to be a private vigil just for our neighborhood and for the family. We were hoping if we made it more personal like that the family would come and they wouldn't be overwhelmed with all this. That was the other thing. Good God, the traffic. The second that it got out, we had tons of people just driving up and down the street, just looking and watching. I'm like, I don't know what you're going to do to help. We're flooded already with police. I don't know what outsiders coming in are going to do. I mean, it was chaotic as it was anyway. And now you got all these extra people coming out there. So it just got so chaotic. But so Tuesday night we planned the vigil, went down there, got in a big circle, introducing everybody. And there's neighbors. I don't want to get too personal here. There are neighbors. Actually, we have I think 2, maybe 3 sets of neighbors that are in law enforcement. They're in different counties. One of them is actually a part of Hendersonville Police, and then the other 2 are from other counties. They came to the vigil. As a matter of fact, the one that is part of Hendersonville has been in a neighborhood since almost the beginning. Know them very well, good people. And he was down there with a flashlight because we had so many people driving up and down and around and circling and going up and down and circling and coming back and forth. And we're just like, good grief. The Proudfoot sent, I don't know who it was, but they came down and we were all introducing ourselves and they introduced themselves as aunt and uncle.
The Proudfoots?
Don't have a
aunt and uncle?
Proudfoots. Apparently, I don't know if it was somebody's brother or that's what they introduced themselves as. We are, maybe it was Sebastian's aunt and uncle.
Chris and Katie
that's what it was.
Chris and Katie said they were their aunt and uncle?
Well, it wasn't. Chris and Katie didn't come. They sent family members. And when they introduced themselves as we're aunts and uncles.
Why?
All right. So this is day 2. They have the vigil. Chris and Katie don't come. Now, there were other vigils that took place and they didn't go to, and everyone said, well, why would they? They're being harassed by the public. This is day 2. So why didn't they go to this first vigil? Just curious your guys' thoughts. And again, I seen Roro said that Nonsense covered this with Terry L. in this neighbor. I would love to not have to listen to that interview and compare how her story changed. So again, I'll ask again, for those who listen to both this neighbor's interviews. Hi, Delana. So good to see you. It's been a while. For those who listen to both these interviews, like how does her story change? Can you guys fill me in so I don't have to listen to them? So I'm just curious. Now, it's not a search, it's a vigil. And the public wasn't breathing down their neck at that point because it was only day 2. So I'm just curious why Chris and Katie didn't go to that, the neighborhood one. MK says I wouldn't have went either. Curious why? Just because like you're distraught and just not wanting to be around the public? I could see myself maybe being that way. Being Bio Girl says that's suspicious right there. Law enforcement told them not to search. Why would they move away? Right. I understand law enforcement telling them not to search. Like I'm not really hung up about them not, searching with the rest of the neighbors. But yeah, the moving away part, very odd. Very odd.
So I guess Sebastian's aunt and uncle?
Why didn't did Seth go?
No.
So no Seth, no Proudfoots. They basically sent their own representatives, family members that claim they ran.
That's correct. Yes.
I got 2 questions back on the first day. when do you know that Chris arrived home?
I did not, because I didn't know. I had never met them. They moved in and nobody knew them. Like, I still don't know anybody that really knows them. Like, nobody ever really knew them. And so
So again, she's not claiming to have known them or Seth. She's, flat out said, I never knew them. Nobody really did. So at least she's not trying to say like, yes, I knew them.
When did they move in? Do you know?
I think, well, so apparently it was a year and a half ago.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and they just stayed to themselves and nobody really even knew them. I didn't even know that.
I do think it's odd that Seth, the mom, and the stepdad didn't go. Personally, I think they're all, again, until people are starting to get cleared, everyone's a suspect in my mind.
That the original owners sold their house, and not because we don't, our neighborhood is just a real quiet neighborhood. Everybody kind of stays to themselves, except for, if you need something, or if a dog, a pet gets out, or if somebody goes on vacation, hey, will you watch my house, that kind of thing. But we don't really, unfortunately, I think everybody's just have busy lives and stuff, and we just don't know. I mean, like each neighbor knows the neighbor next to them. Like, I know all the neighbors around me, and I know a lot of their original neighbors that were there from day one, but I don't know the ones that have moved in over the past 5 years. And I think with COVID, that kind of messed everything up too.
Gotcha. Somebody put in the chat, what time does the trash get picked up in the morning?
That is the biggest misconception. Here we go with the whole light thing, right? This is where we're going. So
one more thing first. The very first day, the dogs. You saw dogs out there.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Going a specific direction or area? Did you see them centered around a certain area, or did they pick up any scent?
Okay, so there was no scent that was picked up from their house to anywhere. However, and my kids were with the handler and the canine and actually watched. He followed them all through the construction zone. And one of my kids actually saw one of the dogs take the handler to one of the retention ponds. And not only did he go to the retention pond, he ran to it and jumped in it. And the handler had to go and get him and take him out of the water and then dry him off. And my son looked over at the handler and said, oh my gosh, I've never seen anything like that before. He looked at me and said, he's never done that before. And my son said, why did he just jump in that? He said he was following a scent. And then the other
on that, did they go in the water? Did they take scuba divers or anything in there?
Supposedly, when I told Seth that, when I met him at the most recent vigil, he said they drained the pond twice and nothing. But not only did I see that, but when on day 3, I think it was Wednesday, when National Guard came through and they had their dogs. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. They were all up and down through the neighborhood. That's why when everybody said, the police aren't doing enough, I have some of my own personal thoughts about that, but I will tell you right now, we had we had the Sumner County Sheriff's Office, we had Hendersonville Police, we had state troopers, we had National Guard, we had drones, we had helicopters, we had canines, we had 2 sets of.
And remember, Secret Service was helping out too. Tony says, I feel like all 3 could possibly know what happened. I'm leaving that out there as an option also. This case is just so mind-boggling and mysterious in a way. Like, and everything is up on the table for me, including that. Sorry, but it just is what it is. Like I said, until people are cleared, that's how I feel. I would love to know why a landfill was searched. Exactly. And there's been numerous experts, including former law enforcement federal agents, who have spoken on that. Some of them have said, that there's a reason why they went there. Other ones have said, well, they have to check every possibility to rule it out. So it's kind of like it could go either way. Either it was just something that they, figured like, let's do this, or it was a reason that it was led there. It's all over the place. But yeah, usually Secret Service will chime in to give their expertise and assistance. So, I wonder what exactly they were doing, wouldn't they have to get a search warrant to search a landfill? That's a good point. Yeah, you would think. So then a judge would have had to sign off for it. And for the judge to sign off for it, there would have had to have been probable cause. So what was the cause? But then why won't they come out saying, why are they coming out saying no signs of foul play? But then in the same breath, they say, but foul play isn't ruled out. Oh my gosh. Oh, Pointer Lover, I know. I can't have, like we said earlier, I don't want this to be another Summer Wells case.
Different canines, and the National Guard brought theirs. So we were flooded. Okay, so back to the whole dog.
Let's do the trash, because the trash is what everyone is like curious about. The time the trash picks up, and then in reference to the lights. We're going to talk about the 3:10 a.m. lights. Let's talk about the trash. What do you know?
So our trash gets picked up by J.E. McMurtry Disposal, has for many, many, many years. They used to, a few years back, they would pick up around 6:30-ish, but then the bus was coming through and it was making it hard for them to come through with the bus, and all the kids were out and it was just chaotic. So they switched it, and now they go down my street about 5:30, 5-ish, between 5:15-ish, 5:20, something like that, every Monday morning. That's going down my hill, though. That's not when they come in and they're going around it. That's when they're coming back down. So, yeah.
I mean, that's an extra, 20 minutes? How long does it take for the trash truck guy to go through the whole entire neighborhood?
And the other misconception is a lot of people are saying that they have to hand dump the trash bin in there. They don't. It's a new truck. They have an arm, and it does it for them. So that was another thing where they're having to pick up these big. No, they're not. They have an arm. They roll it over to the arm, connect it to the arm, and they dump it in. You can hear it. I mean, it's not quiet. It's loud. I mean, you can hear the arm doing all that. So by the time they collect the trash coming up the street, though, not going down it. They're collecting it as they come up. So I guess they're probably in the neighborhood just like around 5, just before 5.
And they're out of there before the buses come.
Yes.
Or the bus comes, or
Absolutely.
You said buses. Where's trash go?
Oh, it gets dumped in either Nashville or Gallatin. If Nashville is.
Hey, Jen Lou, good to see you. I cannot figure out if I believe this lady. I feel like everything so far, like, again, we're only, I don't know, 26 minutes in. I feel like it sounds pretty, like, straightforward. Like, she's just telling, like, what she saw and heard. But then I got chat telling me that she changes her story in another interview, but yet no one has told me how. So now I'm going to have to listen to this other interview and, like, feel out this lady again. Did anyone, I think she's just a bored, nosy lady who wants to gain some popularity in her neighborhood. Perhaps. Just reading your guys' comments. Do you guys find her credible? And again, for those who don't, explain why. This is my first time listening to her like all the way through. So sometimes I feel differently when I listen to somebody more than once. So some of you guys said that she changed her story. So I'm curious, how so? I know, Tony, it really is. It makes me sick. ATS, sorry, had to let the dog out. It was more or less adding extra details. And then she stated, I'm only giving this interview now as a favor to JLR, which I thought was strange. Oh, okay. That's noted. Thank you, Roro. Oh, absolutely, Tony. Sometimes law enforcement knows a lot more than they say. Hey, nosy people, help out sometimes. If you see something, say something. So many stay silent, and that doesn't work either. That's true, Delana. So true. And I'm nosy too. So just because I'm nosy doesn't mean like I want attention, I've never seen her before. I said that not knowing there was SWAT there, and then talking about an incident where SWAT was in the neighborhood previously. Also, what the handler said to the kid was different. Okay, noted. Noted. Another neighbor came forward but has changed her mind now because of the way Bobby has been attacked. Strange case. That's unfortunate because that's the thing is so many people want to jump down these people's throats, and it's like everything that they saw and heard could be, relevant, or sometimes you remember other details when you're telling this story to somebody else. You know what I mean? I do that even to myself. If I tell my mother a story about something and then I tell my friend the same story, like sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, and then he said this. So if things are slightly different, that doesn't mean to me that it's not a credible story personally. But again, I don't know this lady next to Adam. So Pointer Lover says, I believe her. My gut tells me, why would she lie? I don't know. But again, I don't know her.
They'll temporarily dump it to Gallatin, and then once I guess Nashville gets whatever, then they'll transport to Nashville. The big misconception was that the neighborhood behind us, they get picked up by a different company on Tuesdays. So that's a whole different thing.
Is that construction development?
Yeah, I get the hearsay aspect can make you feel a little bit like uneasy, like, okay, so she's getting this information from, but a lot of what she said is just stuff that she saw herself. So I don't know. I don't feel like half hour in that we've heard a lot. Like I would say less than 50% of what she said so far is hearsay. A lot of it is just stuff that she knows. ATS News. So if that makes me nosy, so be it. I would rather be observant of my surroundings. Same. If it wasn't for Chris Watts' nosy neighbor, he would have gotten away with the murder. And Shanann's nosy friend, Nicole Atkinson, who's like, why aren't you answering? Okay, for me, the issue I have is that there was a trial. If there was a trial, 96% of what she talks about in this interview would be hearsay and inadmissible. Right. But if she was in the whatchamacallits, like pre-trial hearings, those are allowed hearsay. And you know what's strange too is in the UK, hearsay is allowed in trials. I find that strange. People aren't always going to remember things the same way when they're talking about them over and over again. I agree, Tony. This is why people don't talk, because people are too nasty. I believe her and appreciate her giving us the information she has. Nothing to me, even in her body language, seems like she's like making things up. Again, we're only a half hour in. If she's just the neighbor of Sebastian's. Yeah. She even has openly admitted that she doesn't know them. Yes. No, the 15th on my brother's birthday, Zoe. It's terrible. I think we're going to do a Summer Wells live stream this week. Unfortunately, we won't be sharing new information. Yay for nosy people. Yeah. I'm nosy and I admit it. I have no problem admitting it. But the Proudfoot's house isn't even visible from her house. So how does she know all this? She said that, she went outside, like she walked around, went outside and seen the commotion. And I think the most interesting thing that she's shared thus far is she runs a neighborhood Facebook page, and Katie commented in the Facebook page at around 7:30. Katie has never shared that. Not that it's like a huge thing in the timeline, but Katie hasn't really shared much about the timeline. So to me, that kind of broadens like, okay, so we can squeeze in that she was on Facebook at one point. And then she also shared that she had posted Sebastian was missing after another neighbor had already posted it. So I think all that is interesting, even though it's very minuscule information. Exactly. She's not claiming she knows what happened to Sebastian. Exactly. And we're just, hello, have we gotten any new information in this case in over 3 months? No, we haven't. People are going over interviews from 3 months ago. How many times can we go over the same stuff? again, I think we're all intelligent people, and it was noted in the beginning of the live stream that this was going to contain hearsay and that we would take it with a grain of salt. But I think that, it's interesting to hear. I've been taught to question everything, and it has never let me down. Same. Who knows if she is being honest or doing it for attention, but when you put yourself out there, you open yourself up, good or bad. That's true. That is true. And I'm not trying to, claim that she's a liar. Like, I just don't know. I do know that sometimes people's stories, like Tony said, change a little bit when you're telling it, but that doesn't mean that they're a liar. And I guess we can include that whole concept when it comes to even Katie, because her story has changed. She said that she was falling asleep on the couch. Then in other interviews, and then that she woke up around 10. We covered this in the last live stream. And then in other interviews with Nancy Grace and Chronicles of Olivia, this whole nap never is mentioned. So again, it's like, same concept. Sometimes you remember things or share different details depending on who you're talking to. Again, everybody is a suspect in this case.
You're talking about?
Well, that was the dumpster that everybody was asking about. How is it possible that, whatever, that the dog hit over there as well? That the second dog that was out walking hit also by the.
I absolutely agree, MK. Unfortunately, I couldn't edit this video before going live. Otherwise, I would have loved to have just kept in everything she witnessed and left out the hearsay. So we did put a disclaimer to let people know, like, okay, yeah, this is probably going to contain some hearsay also. But yeah, it would be really interesting if somebody could re-interview her and say, just tell us what you witnessed. Don't tell us who told you this and what you heard from that. That would be interesting. Or if somebody could go back through this and edit out everything like with hearsay and see what we get last after all that. Seems like everybody's stories change, and that's concerning because the truth should always remain the same. Skipping details in the storyline doesn't necessarily mean she changed her story. Well, when people ask her what happened that night and she skips details or changes it up, to me, that's concerning because you're being asked what took place that night and you're changing it up. Oh, no, you're fine, MK. I'm not being combative either or thinking anybody is. I'm just saying. But yeah, no, Liz, like the last person to have seen, if the last person to have seen Sebastian is changing up the timeline, to me, that's weird. Now, the mother is held to a different standard than other people changing their stories because, in my opinion, she's the last one to have seen him. She was the last one to be with Sebastian. So if things are kind of changing up in regards to that, I think that that's a little concerning. Right. Eyewitness statements, not reliable. True. So even her sharing her firsthand experience of what she witnessed, guess we would have to take that with a grain of salt as well. But the whole point is we have to keep Sebastian's name and face out there. We're not getting any new information. So I'm not trying to go silent on the poor boy because we don't have anything that's, not a witness statement or hearsay. I think that this conversation is healthy and good that we're having. Someone knows something. I do know that. Exactly, Delana. Witness testimony is often so unreliable that it's not used by either prosecution or defense. Right. And isn't it funny for those who follow the Delphi case, that's what people are pretty much hanging their hat on when it comes to the suspect in that case. It's all eyewitness testimony. Someone who should keep their story straight is the mom. Thank you. In my opinion, the most useful info she gave us was about the times of the trash pickup. See? And that to me, I'm glad that you have a different useful information that came out because Mine was that Katie posted in their neighborhood Facebook page that morning. So we all have different perspectives and things that we pull from this. So I'm glad we're listening to it. I'm being combative. No problem, Music City Mom. Doesn't bother me at all. I believe the Proudfoots are suspicious. I just think this lady is going by hearsay. Yeah. People see what they want to see. True that.
Trash dumpster, and the trash dumpster owner found that out when law enforcement told him that we got a hit by the dumpster. The owner of the dumpster called them back and said, okay, we dumped our trash on this certain day, Tuesday, whatever, on that certain day in Kentucky, so go, you guys need to go and get a warrant, obviously. And he gave them permission to go search the Kentucky dumpster or landfill. So that's why they went to Kentucky. And then I was told that they also checked Gallatin and Nashville as well.
That night, Katie claims the night of the 25th that Sebastian takes the trash out after they arrive home from going out to dinner. Go ahead.
There's no specific footage of that. The neighbor that has the Ring door camera that saw that, she said to me on the phone that the only thing you can see is a silhouette. She said you cannot see a physical person. There is absolutely no physical proof of Sebastian being at their house that night after dinner. There's nothing. There's her car coming home. My neighbor did tell me that she saw her car come, but she parks in the garage, so nobody saw him get out of the car.
What time was that? I always want to know what time she arrived home. Do you know?
I asked, and she said that it was so dark that she couldn't really see. She saw about 6 or so, I think is what she said, ish, because they went to dinner at Texas and then supposedly came home, and then her car came into the driveway around 6.
Liz said, I myself haven't heard her change details. Just leaving something out like falling asleep on the couch before moving to her bedroom doesn't mean her timeline changes. Well, it does when she says to Duchess that she was falling asleep on the couch, woke up at 10 o'clock, right? So then Chris Proudfoot says, we got on our phone call, their 3-hour phone call at 9:43, 9:46-ish. So how is she waking up at 10 o'clock from a nap when Chris is saying that they're on the phone at 9:43? And then she gets up and then moves to her bedroom. That wasn't until midnight. So this 2-hour gap, then she fills it in with, I was reading my book for school. I was on the phone. He told me that, I was falling asleep so I could put the dogs away. So there is like from 10 o'clock, mind you, that's the time this thud takes place, which the thud was never mentioned in her interview with Duchess, which is the first interview that they did on YouTube before Nancy Grace, before Chronicles of Olivia, before all those. So if she leaves the thud out, in one of the first interviews that she does, to me, that's red flag. And if she's fallen asleep, wakes up at 10, and Chris is saying their phone call started at 9:43, 9:46, I mean, how is that possible if she's asleep? So again, there is some things in there that are just kind of strange, just saying. Yeah, she was also studying while on the phone. Yeah, because that's how you study for school. All I know is if my child went missing, my ass would be out there every day. So you wouldn't leave the house and go in an RV in another state? There are some things about Seth's past that are alarming. Could only imagine what he'd be like in real life. Every single person in this case has an alarming aspect to them, unfortunately.
And then somebody pulled the trash bin out, after that. But they don't know who it was because you can't tell.
So no evidence. Any neighbor, including yourself, or because you all talk, the neighbors talked to everybody and said there's nothing to indicate that.
Right, Tony. And then for her to never speak of falling asleep and waking up at 10 o'clock to other people, she just goes from 9 o'clock, she told him to go to bed. 10 o'clock, she heard the thud. It's like, wait a minute, what? And then this whole 3-hour phone call, again, I'd like to see their phone records to know if that was a regular thing. And of course, Chris in the Duchess interview comes on and says, and that phone call was verified by all law enforcement. Well, nobody questioned if this phone call was real or not. Relax. The way he like reiterates it, it's like their alibi, in my opinion, or, you know, something to kind of make it seem like they were there. I think you guys understand. Well, the thing is, Liz says she didn't leave it out. She just didn't describe the noise in detail until she was asked to. Well, actually, Duchess says, and nothing unusual was taking place that night, you said. Well, a thud popping into a story in other interviews, like, that's unusual. And she makes it seem like it was unusual, but she didn't check. So I don't know.
He was home that night. He got home that night.
There's no proof of that. Nobody ever saw him come home, or really, I mean, I don't even know if anybody can say they saw him leave with her. I mean, no, I don't think anybody actually looked back that far. It was so chaotic at the very beginning. I think the police were so focused on a runaway teen that was what everybody was focused on. So when they first asked to look at their video cameras, I think everybody was checking actual of him walking out, but there's no proof of him physically walking out. And then it was, okay, are there any cars around there? And so going back to the whole light thing, I was told that there was an unidentified car sitting on my street facing the entrance, somewhere around 3:30 or so. And then the flashlights were actually seen on the neighbor's camera, 2 separate flashlights walking in between the yards, which the trash truck does not do. They don't need to. All of the trash is at the curb. They have never, ever gone. Matter of fact, when you sign up for services, they tell you in the email their rules and regulations. If your trash is not by the curb, they don't take it. Unless, you know, you're an elderly person, you ask them. If your trash is like in the front of your house and you ask them, they'll come and get it like that, but they won't come around the back or in between houses. That's bull monarchy. That is not how that works.
No track. You don't believe those 3:10 a.m. lights were around 3:10 after 3 a.m. were trash truck lights.
Not only do I not believe it, but the neighbor that has the actual footage swore up and down that there are 2 different circumstances. There was the car with the lights coming towards the car backed up on Kellen and left. And then about 2-ish hours, hour and a half, hour and 42 something, they're like she said, the time stamp on the video is not working. It is stuck. She said, but you can tell because it's pitch black dark in the middle of the night when the car comes down the street, turns onto Stafford, sits there for about 3 to 5 minutes. The flashlights are coming from 2 different directions in between the yards. They do whatever they're doing around the car. The car backs up Kellen and leaves from Stafford. Backs up Kellen and leaves. And then 2 or so hours later, as the sun is just beginning to come up, you can see the trash truck. And she said, but the trash truck goes past her driveway. She said, you can see the trash truck and the lights and the back of the truck go past her driveway, go up the hill, do its business, turn around, come back down. And then within a few minutes later, the sun is coming up. And then you can see Katie's car leave, Katie's car coming back. And then you can see all the police come in. She said, it's very obvious. So I asked her why the police are saying that that's trash truck. And she said, I don't know. I'm baffled because I tell you right now, there are 2 different circumstances and that you can tell there are 2 different time frames.
Wow. Because we've heard from Seth Rogers, and Seth is adamant that he was told or he's seen.
That's because LE has told him that.
What's up with that?
Because LE has told him that. Law enforcement has told him that.
Why?
That's the question I asked. When I called, I got I think all of us are just super frustrated.
I think people need to stop assuming things that law enforcement is telling these people is what's the actual truth. Again, law enforcement has their own strategies and tactics. They will tell somebody, you know, something so that they feel safe and comfortable while they continue to dig into, you know, the investigation. For example, they could have told Katie that she passed her polygraph to make her feel comfortable because polygraphs aren't admissible into court. Everybody knows that. So until they get real solid information besides a polygraph, they might want her to feel like she's safe. So again, I'm not saying that's the case, but even in these circumstances about the trash truck and being seen on camera taking the trash out, there could be law enforcement who are just trying to keep the integrity of the case, private and secret while they dig into things and are misleading people, but for the sake of the investigation. It's totally illegal.
Frustrated as this continues to go on, that we don't understand what's happened. We don't know what's happened. We've all been involved in trying to find him day one. We've spread it. We've shared it on social media. A lot of us were out with law enforcement the first week or so, looking for him and stuff. I mean, this shook us up to the core. It flipped our neighborhood upside down and just shook us up. I mean, nobody left their house for 2 weeks. Even the families who walk their dogs every single day, we didn't see them for 2 weeks.
Why?
So,
why?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't know what was going on. We had no idea what happened. I mean, when you have a 15-year-old kid that just vanishes in thin air, nobody wants to leave. We're scared. And then, of course, you see Chris, getting upset through all these YouTube videos. And if your neighbor is that upset and threatening people and saying the things he's saying, you're not going to go be a part of that. You're going to stay in your little cocoon and stay away from them. And I mean, lock your doors and be by yourself and protect yourself and just stay away from it.
You've never seen Sebastian Rogers in the neighborhood or walking around or anything prior to that day? Nothing.
From what I understand from neighbors that live right close to him, the only time they ever saw him come out was when he was playing with the dogs. The dogs would get out, and he'd be out there for a little while, but nobody ever really knew him.
Nobody knew any of them.
He never came out to play with neighborhood kids. You never saw him out riding his bike. I mean, now I'll tell you this. I mean, we have neighbors that go out, like I said, and walk their dogs every single day, sometimes even twice a day. You have kids that will go out and play basketball. We have a basketball goal in one of the cul-de-sacs. Kids will come up and play basketball in the basketball goal. They'll walk, ride their bike. We have one kid that has a four-wheeler and a dirt bike, and he rides around, that kind of thing. Didn't even know Sebastian existed. Never played with anybody.
No friends, nothing.
Never had any friends over their house.
How long was, because I heard that Seth was there for a few days staying with the Proudfoots. Did you hear that?
I did. Well, I saw his, I didn't know he was staying in their house, but I saw his truck there every single day for, when I heard that he had stayed in their house for 3 days, I was shocked. I didn't realize he had actually stayed in the house and then they said 3 days. I'm like, well, that's odd because his truck was parked on the curb of the street for about a week. But I didn't know he was actually there because he was out searching. Like, he was actually at the command center for the first week every day, all day long. Seth was.
Not Chris and Katie. Chris and Katie?
Oh, no. They never left their house.
Never
went
with any flyers, go to door, to speak with neighbors, ask them if they've seen anything, nothing.
No.
Wow. Nope. That is so Miss Bobby.
Well, I watch a lot of true crime, Liz, so I know that I've seen documentaries or, forensic files or anything like that where they've made them feel like you passed when they didn't. So, and I'm sure chat would agree too, that is a tactic that law enforcement uses. They will tell you passed while they still look into you. So yeah. I mean, I've heard of that tactic before, and I don't know if you're new to this channel, but somebody very close to me, I don't like to name my connection to them, but they're a federal law enforcement. So they have studied, above college level, this type of stuff. And yes, they do that. Tony has, more true crime experience than me. She says, I've seen that a lot. They've done that. Cops lie all the time. I've seen them say you failed. Yes, exactly. They can do that too in the interview process. Old McDonald girl case. They told the boyfriend he failed it, and that was a lie. Yes. Gone girl case. They told the boyfriend he failed a lie detector test, and that was a lie. They lie in pressers as well. They do. They will do anything to protect the integrity of the case. No doubt. Yeah, you can't lie, but they can. Right, for the sake of justice and in the conviction.
So do you?
And the only,
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, the only thing they even put on Facebook was that one post,
which eventually got deleted.
Theirs didn't. The original neighbor that was asking, "Hey, what's all the commotion on Stafford?" That person deleted their post.
Gotcha.
Katie's is still up there.
Were the Bauer stocks around at all during that week? I know you said that they were there that morning. Did they look around? Did they look around?
No, we never saw anybody. None of them ever looked in our neighborhood where I'm at. I never seen any of them walking around at all, period, ever. Seth, Chris, Katie, Bauer stocks, none of them ever. I never even met them.
I don't care if law enforcement told the Pope that Katie passed. It doesn't matter. They can still lie.
One encounter with Chris one night. And after, no, never saw him, never met him, nothing.
The Chris encounter, you mind sharing? I think we talked about this offline a little bit.
Yes, okay, so I'll kind of share a little bit of that. This was what day was it? Thursday, I think it was. I think it was Thursday, that Thursday night. Now, mind you, our neighborhood is on pins and needles. Don't know what happened to this kid. Don't understand. Law enforcement's, coming up and around. We've got every department that I didn't even know existed. Like I said, I didn't know, we had a SWAT team. I didn't know we had, drone footage. I didn't know we had any of this stuff. I mean, we're, a small county. I had no idea. Not a small county, big on me. Like, we're away from like the big crowd, the city. Never had any issues. So I didn't even know that any of this stuff has existed. So we were all kind of on pins and needles. And so anything weird, let me go back a little bit and say, the night before this is the reason why this happened. The night before this, I had went to work that night, I think. I did something. I wasn't home for some reason. My son was on our back deck. Now, our back deck faces the construction, the back of the construction. And so he was on the back deck talking to somebody, and he looks out and he says, "Well, that's really weird." And she said, "What?" And he said, "Look at the lights out there." And there was a flashlight. It was kind of a dim flashlight, but you could see it because it's pitch black dark. And he said, "Why is there a flashlight over there?" It was one single flashlight, and it was like walking in the back, kind of over in the back of the woods area. And it like walked around, stopped, walked around a little bit, stopped, and then just disappeared in the back of the woods. And so he called me and he's like, "What do I do?" And I said, "You need to call law enforcement. Like, call the number." We had a flyer, one of those flyers. And I was like, "You need to call the TBI and tell them and figure out what to do with that." He did. And nothing. No phone call back, no nothing. Just, "Okay, thanks for the letter." I'm like, okay, that's awfully weird. I mean, you would think that they would come check that out or call you back and ask you.
Yeah, follow-ups.
Nothing. No, they didn't even call him back to ask him, like, exactly where are you? What did you see? Nothing. Nobody ever followed up or nothing. And so he was like, "That's really weird." And I was like, "Yeah, that is weird. I mean, with the missing kid, you would think they would be coming flying up here to figure out who that was." So it was the following night. So now, of course, we're all like, even more in pins and needles. Like, is people just going to just start walking around our neighborhood in the middle of the night like they were pitch black dark in the night? And so he was coming home. We were all at home and still looking around and talking to neighbors and figuring out like what the heck is going on. And he comes home and walks in the door and is like, "Mom, I don't know what to do." And I'm like, "Now what?" And he said, there's two people, a real tall, skinny guy and a real small, it looks like a girl maybe, that is walking up our street. Now, we do have families that will come out and walk their dogs at night before they go to bed, but they had no dog with them, no nothing. And the strangest part about this was this guy was wearing dark, black, wide, like ski goggles. You've been in my neighborhood. You can't see your hand in front of your face. It is so dark at night. It was 9 o'clock at night. Why is somebody walking with these big black goggles? How can they even see? Well, with everything going on, I'm thinking, okay, that's very suspicious. I gotta check on that. Yes, I could have called law enforcement, and that's what was said. You should have called law enforcement. However, I didn't want to call law enforcement on my own neighbor. If it was a neighbor out walking around, I didn't want to be rude and call law enforcement on my neighbor. So I told my son, I said, "You know what? Let's go." He's got a Jeep that's got a bunch of lights on it. And I said, "Let's drive down there and turn your lights on and see. If you can see somebody out there walking," I said, "I'll call law enforcement." And
I see somebody named Lou trolling chat. I don't know. I see them on, thank you, Pointer Lover, for timing them out. I see them on my StreamYard, but I don't see them on the Facebook chat the YouTube chat, because YouTube, like, obviously recognizes their comments are trollish. So I appreciate you, Pointer Lover. You can just block him because he's saying obscene things regarding Sebastian. It's just not right. And hello, Michelle. Good to see you.
and let them know what we're seeing, and then we'll just turn around and go back home. I wasn't going to follow them. I just wanted to see if I could find them. So we're driving down my road. We turn up Stafford because we couldn't find them. Like, well, maybe they went up Stafford. We went up Stafford. Now my son's Jeep is loud. And so I didn't even think about it. I was more focused on who this person was. So he drives up Stafford and he says to me, hey, while we're up here, where's Sebastian's house? And I'm like, oh, we just passed it. So he turns around and goes back down, and we're going slowly because I was trying to point out Sebastian's house. And so I pointed it out, and he's like, oh, okay. And so we drive back around, and we're driving back down to the other side of the neighborhood, or another cul-de-sac. And he said, wait a minute, didn't you say that this other neighbor has a Ring camera? And I said, yes. And she's the one that saw the silhouette in the window and the lights in the house go on and off and whatever. She's like, but that doesn't make any sense, because if that house is located here, how can she have seen over here? And I'm like, okay, go back up the street and I'll show you. So we went back up the street to show him where that house was versus this and all the whole thing. And as we were coming back up, we kind of stopped. Now, this is my neighborhood. I'm not a suspicious person. This is my neighborhood. I should be able to do whatever I want to, right? So I stop, or he stops a little bit. I'm pointing that houses out, and we drive out, and I said, Sean, I said, honey, we got to go home. And he's like, why? And I said, because somebody's standing at their front door. He was like, oh crap. And so, and I did not, God honest truth, I never meant to upset anybody. It was truly just me trying to figure out what's going on. Never meant to upset anybody. Turn around, Stafford, I'm coming back down, and Chris is, now mind you, I've never met this man, never seen him before. I wouldn't even know who he is. Matter of fact, I thought he was law enforcement. Stands in the middle of the street and puts his hand out and stops, just like this. And I was like, oh my gosh, oh crap, oh crap, oh crap, oh crap. And I'm thinking it's law enforcement. I'm like, oh crap, we're about to get in trouble because they're going to think that we're looking for this kid or something. So right on the window, and he comes around and he stands there just like this. He's like, what are you doing out here? And I'm like, holy crap. I said, I'm so sorry. We were looking for, and I told him what happened and told him the whole story. And he was like, why wouldn't you just call law enforcement? I said, because I don't want to call law enforcement on a neighbor if they're out walking around. That's kind of rude. And he's like, well, you have no business driving around here, and started telling me in a very intimidating, very strong voice, I guess you would say, big tough, he's a big guy, kind of thing. That my son is missing, and they've got police all around here looking. I said, yeah, no kidding. I know, I'm aware. I've been talking to him. Trust me, I know, I get it. And then he said, there's a police, the heat sensor mobile unit things, what I'm talking about, that can detect heat sensor and stuff. Well, they had one of those up in the top, hoping that if he came home, it would alert law enforcement that there was somebody walking around, which I don't get that, because you've got families that are walking dogs anyway. So I was like, I'm so sorry. I kept apologizing to him, and he got really upset and, kind of said some things, and I was trying to calm him down, and I apologized. And my son's girlfriend was in the back, and she thought that if she rolled the window down and said, I am such and such, and I go to your son's school, that he would calm down. Even though I said, hey, I'm your neighbor. I live up there. Everything's fine. I'm sorry I didn't bother you. I thought even me telling him I was his neighbor would calm him down. It's like he just glossed right over that. He didn't care. So she says, I'm such and such, and I go to school with your son. And he stops mid-sentence to me and said, oh, and got stopped, looked at her and said, your name? And she said, yes, sir. Like, how do you know? She only gave him her first name, and he said the whole thing. And she was like, how do you know my name? And I was like, what the crap? I looked at my son. I said, we need to go. We just need to go. We just need to go. And I'm like, I'm going to call the police, because this is getting, I don't know. I don't understand. I wish you could have, I can't describe his body language. Was just very,
it wasn't like, for that people were out there looking for his son, or thinking it was more like trying to stop.
Get off my street. Get off my street. Get out of here. Get off my street. Go home. Leave me alone.
Okay, put it at regular speed for Michelle and Roxanne. Okay, Delana, you got my message. Excellent.
Get away from us. But he told her that, so you're the girl that runs this Facebook group and this, that, the other. I'm going to demand you take that off. You get your phone. And he said, where are your parents? And she said, at my house. And he said, well, I'm going to find out where you live, and I'm going to come knock on their door, and we're going to have a conversation. And she said, okay, good luck with that. And I was like, you know what? Look, we don't want to, cause any issues and whatever. I try to give him grace. Don't know the man from nowhere. And I just kept saying, he's upset. His son's missing. He's really upset. He's very defensive. Maybe that's just all that what it was. Now that I've seen some of his YouTube videos, and I'm like, yeah.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. I didn't know the back end of those details. I know we talked before offline a little bit. And you said, you know, kind of like a confrontation kind of deal. It confronted you guys, but I didn't know those like back end details that you shared. Somebody in the chat, Smiley's World, was asking, prior to the February 26th, right, when Chris arrived home, did any neighbors or anyone that you heard, whether you see it, but you said you never knew him prior, did anyone ever say anything about him being around the house on the 25th, the 24th, or seen in the neighborhood or anywhere in the area prior to the
nobody's ever really mentioned him. The only person that's ever said anything about him coming home, like I said, nobody really ever paid attention, I don't think, because even the neighbor that lives close by that I'm friends with, I asked her, like, you know, did you ever see? She said, I never really paid attention because, like, he would come and go and they never were out really, you know, and they had this camper, and the camper would leave and then it would come back, and then, you know, he never came outside. And it's odd because Chris kept saying that he would go outside and play and, you know, all that kind of stuff. And she's like, I don't remember ever seeing him really outside playing. Like, there's no playground. They don't have a playground outside. They don't have a trampoline outside. Like, if you looked at their yard, you wouldn't even know. There's no bike. There's no, like, scooters. There's no basketballs. You wouldn't even know they have kids. There's nothing in their yard to play with. He's never outside. Like, he didn't go outside and play catch with his dad. Nothing.
Interesting. Now, as you said, pitch black in the neighborhood. Do you buy it where they're claiming that this kid walked out the front door and kind of that neighborhood?
No. Because everybody around the camera.
Would a kid go out at night and walk around out there at night alone?
I don't think so. I mean, unless their parents didn't. Now, we did have a ding dong ditch happen a couple of years ago, but no. I mean, I've never experienced kids just randomly walking around the neighborhood. That's the thing about our neighborhood, is it's so quiet. Like, at night, literally, like, you know, in the summertime when my kids were younger. Sorry, my car shut off for me for something.
Not 100% sure, Island High, but I think so. Yeah, JLR does talk pretty quick. You're fine, Michelle. It's fine. I want to get through this. I don't know if we will, but at the same time, I mean, I think we've gotten a lot of information that is, you know, quote unquote, important already. I'm sure anything that's mentioned in the last, I don't know, hour or so, we'll see. We'll see how long we can go on here. Again, I am pregnant and sitting in this chair for a while. It does hurt my back a little bit. Yeah, ding dong ditch. That's when you ring a doorbell and then you run away.
My kids were younger, they would go outside and play like flashlight tag and stuff like that. And I'd have to get on to them like, okay, 10 o'clock, y'all need to be done because everybody's got to go to bed and whatever. Nobody ever gets, like, you don't ever just see random kids walking around by themselves. I don't buy that at all. And I know that neighbors that are right around them said that there was nothing on their cameras.
Nothing. So no evidence whatsoever for that morning. 26.
I really just don't believe that he walked out a door. Now, Chris and Katie have both stated that in their interviews. I don't know why he walked out that door. What? Why would you think he walked out the door? I thought you didn't know what happened. And then, you know, he just vanished. And then Chris also says that he walked out the door. Like, we have no evidence that he walked out the door. And in fact, no dog has agreed that that is possible either, right, chat? Or am I off?
And not even the 25th, the night of the 25th. Wow. Do you think law enforcement...
He just vanished. He literally just vanished.
What's your theory? What do you think? What do you think happened? What's your theory? Based off you being a neighbor, based off you speaking to other neighbors, you're very close to the area, you've seen law enforcement over there. What do you think happened?
I have to be very careful with that one. I know there were some family dis issues, like there were some personal stuff going on within the family between Katie and Chris. Um, Seth told us, that he was supposed to get full custody. One minute he says that Katie was okay with it. The next minute I'm hearing that Katie was not okay with it. I don't know their personal story. I know that neighbors are close by them heard fighting within their family outside, verbal things that were said outside. So I don't know that it was, I think there were some struggles within the family. I mean, every family has issues. I get that, but I don't know. Families typically would get into that kind of a dispute outside. I mean, if I was going to have a conflict of interest between my kids and I, or my husband and I, we would be inside. I wouldn't be outside making that known. And apparently there were some situations where things were heard that weren't.
See, I myself, like, I have neighbors that we're very close. Like, I can hear them arguing. I heard them arguing outside early in the morning one time. So I don't know. Like, I get it's like not what everybody does, but I mean, for me, in all the places I've lived, I mean, I've seen it happen numerous times. I don't know about you guys. So having people argue outside or hearing them argue when they're outside, like, to me, like, isn't like so shocking and like gasp. But you guys let me know, like, what do you guys hear?
Good.
Bobby, when did those fights occur? Do you know?
Women over the past, I mean, I guess since they've been there, like, periodically. It wasn't like a one-time thing. It was.
And I'm sure that CP, and this is just what based on stuff that people have said, might not have the patience for a special needs kid like Sebastian. So maybe there were times where he raised his voice. I don't know. Not excusing it. I'm just saying, like, kind of amping this whole, like, we heard arguing, blah, blah, but you can't tell us what was said. It's like, come on. Planet Jace, I agree. All I've learned from this case is that Sebastian deserved better, but likely never stood a proper chance. Isn't that the truth? Michelle says, my neighbors are all weird. I like to take all my fights outside. Just kidding. Yeah, hearing arguments isn't shocking to me either. Only if you're being nosy. Well, I am. Yeah, it depends on what you're saying and what you're hearing. Right. Like, and yet she can't give those details. Come on now.
There were other, times where things were said and that kind of thing. I don't live close enough to them to have heard that. I mean, they would have to have screamed at each other for me to have heard that. I didn't hear it. But
and isn't it funny? She kind of started this little conversation with, all I know is, and then now she's saying, but I haven't heard it. Like, come on.
But I know that neighbors around them have reported hearing things that were said outside, and it wasn't like a one-time thing.
Any cops ever get called?
Well, I mean, CPS was called multiple times, and I know teachers personally that still work at Beach that were told things and they had to report it. I mean, when a teacher is told, counselors and teachers are told.
Now, this is stuff that Chris Proudfoot has even come out admitting. And that's not a regular thing that CPS is just showing up at your door. So
things, they by law have to report it. And I know that absolutely. And I know that, kids can be over exaggerating. I know that, especially teenagers, that kind of thing. I think for me, I think my kids would be respectful enough with us that if something happened, I don't think they would go and say, like, my mom is mean to me. Like, they know that's not true, and they would get in trouble for lying. So for him to make up that things that he was saying, I can't imagine him making certain things that were set up enough for CPS to be called on them. And I know they were called multiple times.
Multiple times. So when you say multiple, how many times?
I have no idea.
Oh my God. I know that they were called multiple times. How many times? I have no idea. Well, you just said you know. Now you have no idea. Like, you don't have any idea? Does she talk for the whole 90 minutes of this video? I just skimmed through. She talks through the whole thing, and what's even more astonishing, she doesn't take a drink. I can barely get through a live stream talking to you guys, like, without having a few drinks. Yeah, she kind of lost me a few times, SRB says. I feel like we've gotten a lot out of her that, I mean, it's kind of like, okay. Like, anytime she says, I heard, I kind of not zone out, but I'm not like honed in. You know what I mean? Personally.
I have no idea. I'm not
neighbor,
privy to that information.
has any neighbors or anybody tell you that they've seen the CPS at their house? Like,
I don't know. They have not actually used the words "I've seen them at the house," but they've told me that there have been people that have visited an official. Like, I don't know. Like, the car that comes is not going to have CPS written on it.
Yeah.
I mean, it may have a government official like license plate or something like that. And they're not going to have they're going to have a badge on them as they go to the front door, but it's not going to be something that a neighbor is going to see, that kind of thing. So I don't know, like, neighbors haven't said like, I have seen this happen, because they were really paying attention. I don't think it was one of those things where I don't think neighbors, like, after this has happened, some of the neighbors are going back and saying, wait a minute, I remember this, and I do remember that, and I do remember this, and oh wow, this is like all connected. But when it happens over a year period of time and it's just random, but then nothing really ever comes of it, you just kind of try to stay in your own lane and mind your own business, because you're not hearing, like, I don't know that neighbors heard screaming, or like, I don't know that it was like the things that were being said outside were loud enough to make neighbors call. I don't think it was that kind of like, if a neighbor next to me, I heard a kid screaming, help me, don't, whatever, I would be calling the police. Like, okay, I'm going to go inside. I'm going to call the police and be anonymous. It wasn't that kind of a thing. It was things that were said and arguments between them that made neighbors think, gosh,
but when you say that, are we talking Chris and Katie, or is Seth in the picture too? Is it like, were there arguments with Seth there?
I don't think Seth was ever there long enough. I think he was there long enough to pick Sebastian up for his weekend, or they would meet somewhere for his weekend or something like that. I don't think that Seth was ever there. I think it was mostly, the one neighbor told me that she heard, and I'm not going to go into a lot of whole big detail because I don't want to get into their whole personal life. It's not my place. But a neighbor had told me that there were things that were said between, like, Chris and Katie would get into an argument, like in the driveway, and then Sebastian might come outside and Chris would raise his voice at him, either get inside or what are you doing out here, or make comments to him like that. And like I said, it wasn't like, I'm going to kill you or I'm going to beat your butt. It wasn't like such a horrible thing to make a neighbor call 911. It was just a very like abrasive enough to, now that he's missing, they go back and think, oh,
So that's kind of
maybe,
like, that was the kind of what you were saying when the neighbors kind of put these pieces together after the fact.
right. It's one of those things that you go back and look and think, oh, okay, so maybe there was something to that. I just didn't realize it.
Okay. So did she just say that a neighbor heard, I'll beat your butt? Because that's significant in a way. No, it's not a collab. I wish, Beach Bum. No, I'm just playing his video with fair use. I did ask his permission.
Have you ever heard anything about the mattress in the garage?
I have, and I have not been able to confirm that. I did hear that, and the neighbor next to them when the garage door would come up for her to leave, they saw a mattress in the garage. And well, I mean, Chris admitted that there was a mattress in there. Now he said it was for his daughter, so maybe, but why is it still in there? I don't know. No idea.
Yeah, they said on Nancy Grace that they got a new bed set after Sebastian missing. But then people are also that it's punishment. Did you? And I'm
That's
talking
what I heard too.
Punishment aspect about Sebastian sleeping in the garage for punishment. Have you heard that?
I did hear that, but I can't confirm it because I have not talked to the neighbors that live next to them that were the ones that said that. I don't know for a fact they said that. But my thing is, and again, I'm not trying to put anything blame on them at all because I don't know them, don't know anything about their personal story, have no idea. I can't confirm any of this, but I just know that I'm surprised that the mattress has been in the garage that long. I mean, if the mattress is for your child, wouldn't it have been put away or put in the, I mean, why is it still in the garage and not in the child's bedroom? And
all I know is my in-laws have a mattress in like one of their like spare storage rooms that's just sitting there because they have like 4 kids and they're in and out, like moving home, not moving home, moved here, moved there. So again, where does this whole, I know it's been out there since this case started that they were making him sleep in the garage. Is there anything besides just speculation, or, has that been confirmed for sure? And they got this mattress after he went missing or before? Because she's making it seem like the neighbor had seen in it. I'm confused about this mattress thing. Is this just like a red herring, a nothing burger, or what's going on? Hi, Leia.
and 2, the daughter, Faith, I don't ever remember her being there. Like, if she was there, I mean, maybe once, one summer.
Yeah, I'm confused by that.
I'm just surprised that she would have a brand new mattress if she's not there very much. I mean, I don't know. Maybe she didn't even have a mattress, and that's the first one.
You spoke earlier about a silhouette and a light inside.
Oh, yeah.
The house. Talk a little bit about that. Some people were asking that in the chat. What's that all about?
Okay, so if I go back to day one and kind of rehash a little bit, try to make this as short as possible. The neighbor close by that saw Katie out front on the way to taking her kids to school, she was the one that called me. Friends, I'm good friends with her. She's the one that actually called me and told me what was going on. And said that I said, well, what happened? And she said, well, I went and asked Katie what happened. And she said, and this is where the story gets totally misconstrued. I don't know. Again, third party, I'm hearing this from another third party source. So, I trust this lady. She's a good friend of mine. There's no reason why she would lie. But she said, Katie, they had gotten home from Texas Roadhouse, took the trash out, so on and so forth. Sebastian was in his room. She was in the kitchen, I guess, getting, whatever done. And from her house, she's close enough to where she can see from the Ring camera, like the lights inside, because it's dark. So, I mean, if you have lights on, you can see it. And so she said that she could see the lights in the house around 10 or so. Then Katie told her that Sebastian was in his room. She was in the kitchen. She said, you need to go to bed. And he said, okay. And she goes in the living room and does whatever, watches TV. She says she was studying. I don't know, whatever, doesn't matter. She was in the living room for whatever reason. And she told my neighbor that she fell asleep and
Say that again. You broke up. Say it again. You broke up.
This funk, and she yelled across the house and said, Sebastian. And he said, yes, Mom. And she said, are you okay? He said, yes, I'm fine. I'm good. Go to bed. And she said, okay. So she gets up, and my neighbor said, you can actually see his light go off, her walking across the house, her light go off, and then a silhouette come up to the window for a minute. And then everything just goes black.
What time was that again? Because you cut out.
I'm sorry. I know my son was calling me. Okay, so she woke up around 11:30 is what she told my neighbor, that she woke.
See, and yet again, this is just hearsay. So again, who knows like what Katie really said or what this neighbor heard and then repeated. But she told Duchess she woke up at 10. And now this lady's saying that she woke up at 11:30. And then this thud was heard. Like, so this stuff's all over the place. Okay, we did an hour and 45 minutes of this, guys. I just want to go back to some of these. It was due to Nancy Grace bringing it up so randomly on her interview, and you could see Chris Proudfoot's face was annoyed with the question. Okay, this is about the mattress, and answered abruptly that he received a second-hand bedroom set. Hi, Holly Thomas. Good to see you. Yeah, I don't know, guys. Haven't really heard anything groundbreaking. I seen somebody in the chat on JLR's on. It said, this is really eye-opening. Hi, Scott. I don't see, I don't know. I just don't know, guys. He just bought Faith a very expensive puppy from a breeder, but he's going to furnish her bedroom with a used mattress set. Yeah, that's weird. Very weird. I don't know, guys. If there's anything groundbreaking in the rest of this interview, you know, you guys let me know. There's a half hour left exactly. Maybe I'll listen to it, you know, in my off time, shower or something. I don't know. But I haven't come out with anything like, oh wow, I've had an epiphany. I don't know, guys. I think we can stop it there. The only thing I got out of it was the flashlight, if it's true. Yeah, and the only thing, yeah, the flashlight, the garbage information, and the Facebook page for the neighbors where Katie posted in it after somebody else posted about Sebastian missing were the only things that really stuck out to me in this whole hour that we've been listening. Everything else I feel like has been a little bit too out there, a little bit too, I heard this and they said this and I can trust them. And like, I don't know these people to trust. So not calling her a liar. I'm just saying like, I can't really hang my head on every single word that was said. Again, you guys let me know if anything sticks out to you guys. Katie told first few interviews, Olivia, Channel 5, etc., she woke up around midnight and went to bed. Yes, she did. That's why I'm so confused why in her interview with Duchess, they're talking about 10 p.m. she woke up. And then later, she's on the phone with Chris and is dozing, and he says, you can get up and go to bed, put the dogs away. So it's just the stories about when she's dozing and waking up on the couch and when this phone call is going on and her studying, like, and this thud takes place. It's been all over the place, in my opinion. That's just how I feel. But hi, Legendary. Good to see you. Yeah, she was studying while on the phone. Right. She was being too detailed at times. Yeah, I agree. Just too much. Like, wow, my mouth was getting dry just listening to her talk. She hasn't taken a sip. You can't study and be on the phone at the same time, right? And you can't be falling asleep, waking up at 10 when Chris is saying you started your phone call at 9:43. How is that possible? She woke up at 10, according to Duchess. Again, I'm telling you guys, you got to go to the Duchess interview to hear what I'm talking about. Or I think it was my last live stream. Let me check. We pulled it up on my last live stream, and I was wondering, like, where is this coming from? This falling asleep and waking up. Phone call starts. Hold on, let me see. I think it was our last one. Maybe it was the one before that. I don't know. One of the last two streams we did on Sebastian, we listened to the Duchess interview. It's odd. I can message you, Holly, when I go live if you want. That way you don't miss them. I hate that. The, like, KG, too many different versions of the same story drives me nuts. Agree. All reasons why CP will not allow KP to speak without his presence. Yes. She can't keep the storyline straight. I agree. There's some sort of control factor and he'll take over. And then we've seen in cases where he's popped up on people's channels to talk and they've all been like, where's Katie at? And like, he's not like letting her get on. But again, guys, I'll listen to this off the air. If anything sticks out, I'll let you guys know, or vice versa. But yeah, check it out. It's linked in the description box if you want to listen to the whole thing. JLR's channel. Again, I'm searching for updates. No update on this case at all. We will keep our eyes open, of course, for any sort of update and come right away to the live stream and talk about it. We don't, even though this really didn't gather much information, I think that we still need to have these talks, because once we stop going live on Sebastian, much like Summer Wells, it fades away, and they don't deserve that, in my opinion. And I know there's a lot of drama surrounding this case, so there's a lot to talk about still. Yes, I'm on Facebook. It's my real name though, so that's why I don't really want to. Roxanne just messaged me, I'm leaving, LOL. She's sick of the neighbor talking. Sorry. I never said it was going to be a groundbreaking live stream, guys. I just said we got to go through it. We got to keep his name out there. What you guys can do is follow me on, like, in my true crime Facebook group. And then if you want to message me, you can find me under the admins. And then we can talk off that way, because I really don't like to give my email out either, because so I'm going to link my Facebook group in chat right now. Join the group, find me under the admin area, and private message me if you want to. Yes, Holly, I would love to message you when I go live. I think I'm going to go live tomorrow night. Not sure what we'll be discussing. Might be the Watts case, might be Summer Wells, might be Gilgo Beach. I really want to talk about all of them. Might be the Karen Reed trial. Yeah. Well, listen, I never said that what she was going to come forward with was going to be like, oh, this is going to solve the case, So again, we had to give it a listen. And just like other cases, well, yeah, you can message me on TikTok too. And I think I might have that linked in my about area on here. Gilgo Beach, please. Micah Miller. So I will definitely look into more updates from Micah Miller. Haven't heard anything as far as coming from the FBI's investigation. Gilgo Beach. All right, guys, we'll definitely talk about those other cases for sure. So live tomorrow night, live Friday, maybe Saturday and Sunday. Join me around the same time frame. It's the only time I can kind of get away from the little one. I'm with her all day. So I appreciate you guys being here. Again, this live stream might not have, brought forth much information. Yes, Zoe, new info on Maddie Soto. Yeah, I linked a lot of that stuff to my community page, and we discussed her last night. But yes, there is a lot to discuss there, a lot of disturbing details there, a lot of stuff to kind of digest, and it's just awful. But yeah, so we might not have garnished much information from that neighbor, but what I have to ask you guys to do is to hit the like button. This keeps Sebastian's name out there in the algorithm. That's what it's about. This is about Sebastian. So thank you guys so much. Again, meet me tomorrow night and we will discuss other true crime cases. Thanks, guys, and see ya.